Hello and welcome to the second episode of UEDIP Design Thoughts. As a reminder, I will be talking and taking a look at missions in the editor in this series. So if you want to play them by yourself and don't want to be spoiled about mechanics or things that you may see in the mission, you should probably play them before watching this. I will cover vanilla terrain missions 1 to 3, which is the Wasteland, Backwater Station, and Desperate Alliance. I will of course start with the Wasteland. I have two versions of these maps opened here, and one of them is the unedited map that you may be familiar with from the vanilla campaigns, and one is of course the UEDAIP version. So if we take a look at the very first map of the Terrain campaign unedited, it's a very simple map. You don't really have anything going on in terms of AI here. You just have some pre-placed units for the orange player, which is Zerg, and then they don't really do anything. They just stand there. This player has no triggers. He doesn't do anything. He just has his units pre-placed, and they will probably chase you around for a bit if you approach them, but they don't really do anything beyond that. And then you have this unused location. This doesn't do anything. And there you have a trigger playing. Another trigger about the SCV saying something. If you go here, you are going to meet Raynor, and Raynor is going to say some stuff, but he's just standing here, not doing anything in particular. And then if you come to the Wasteland outpost, you get control of all blue stuff, and you can start mining and building marines. And you can, I think, and you have to build like 5 marines, or what number was it? Let me check. Marine counter activated. Oh, you have to control 10 marines, and then you immediately win. So yeah, it's a very simple mission. You just take these units, you come through here, there's like a dialogue along the way. You come to Raynor, there's another dialogue. You get the space, you start building barracks and marines, and once you have 10 marines, you just win the mission automatically. There's nothing more to do. In UEDIP, if we take a look at this map, where is it? Oh, this is pretty inconvenient to navigate. Oh, there it is, okay. We start with, I think, the exact same units. You will probably see that the locations are a little different. I didn't remove the airstrike location. I don't even remember why. But it's still not used. It's definitely not used for anything. These locations are rearranged a little bit because I wanted the dialogues to play a little bit earlier so that I can dump some information about frames. And what happens is if you enter into this location, you get a hint about the way frames work. And if you don't know what this means in StarCraft, uh, it's just trying to explain that units have their attack speed determined by frames between attacks. And for example, a Marine attacks once each 15 frames, let's say Goliath attacks once each 22 frames, I think. And this is basically saying that this is how like duration is counted in StarCraft. And whenever you have a duration in a tooltip, it will be in frames each time. Because I don't think that doing it in seconds makes sense, since you can play on a different game speed than fastest. And then durations in seconds wouldn't be accurate on one hand, and on the other, it's pretty ugly, because if you give a duration like 30 frames, this is the exact duration that something is going to have. But if you say like 2 seconds, this is only 2 seconds on normal. On past tests, it gets like really weird. It's like I think 1.3 something seconds, something along those lines. So it's just really inconvenient to give durations in seconds. And as long as you understand that you have frames and fastest is about 24 frames per second, it's way easier, in my opinion, to try and calculate each duration. After you get through this location, there's nothing here still except for some more doodads maybe. I tried to make the terrain a little bit more interesting. You get Raynor, but this time he comes in from over this area, starts killing those Zerg, and after he's done, you get a little dialogue with Raynor saying the same thing he would normally say. When he enters this location, he tells the dialogue line about Creep being alive. That's normally heard in Mission 2. I thought it made more sense here because I moved more Zergy stuff over to this map. And then in the Wasteland Outpost, you have the same tips you normally would, except I also try to explain away some things that you may know happen only in vanilla. For example, all production structures in vanilla are more expensive and most of them drop a unit when they die. So this is put into a tip that you get, I think about the time you gather 200 minerals. The search strike location is unused again. If you see locations that are called like location number unit, this basically means that the AI is scripted to put a specific thing here at a particular moment. So the AI will try to build a sunken somewhere around this area, and this means that probably it's going to try and attack towards this location with Zerglings at some point, or maybe it's going to try to just uh, put a guard in this very specific spot so that it like guards this passageway. You can see immediately that obviously the AI has some buildings, not just Zerglings. It's also an actual AI script this time. The idea when I was making this map was that it would try to creep around the map with sunken colonies. So there's a few locations where it's supposed to start building sunkens. But other than that, it also produces Zerglings and eventually Hydras. And if you let it mine for long enough, it will start attacking you with Zerglings and Hydras. I figured it was important to make this mission in a way where you can actually lose if you are just AFK. Because like I mentioned in the last episode, I had like a bit of a um, I was trying to reinvent UEDIP towards something where I felt we would have more opportunities to engage with AI, and the previous version of the map was more static, whereas here the AI can expand to this location. It can build some static defenses around it. It's like a bit more dynamic, and you have more ways in which you can hopefully approach the mission and win it, because you can try to bleed it by harassing the expansion, or maybe just uh, brute force through the static defenses, or maybe just attack the base even, instead of just outright doing the main objective and winning that way. And yeah, I think I don't remember what this location is for, but it's probably something like if you go here, it starts to use more Hydras for defense, because otherwise it would be sending Hydras to different locations around the map more early than I'd want it to. So this is scripted, so like there's a specific place you have to pass before it starts using more Hydras, I'm pretty sure. And the objective in this map isn't to just train 10 Marines, it's to evacuate a number of Marines or Vultures. And the way it works is that you have to evacuate a specific supply of units. So you can combine whatever permutation of marines and vultures you want to. And the way you train vultures is there's a factory over here. And if you approach it, you just rescue it and you can start training vultures. So you can't build factories, but you can capture this factory. Uh, and yeah, the location you have to escape through is here. And then in the second map, the whatever combination of vultures and the marines you rescued from this map is the exact combination of units you are going to receive. I had to implement some safety nets around that because obviously it can be pretty tough if you just escape with one marine. So I think there's a minimal amount of marines that you are going to get in the second map. And this minimal amount is used either if you escaped with literally nothing, or if you escaped with like only one vulture or only one marine. It's something like this. And the way you can win this map without evacuating the necessary amount of units is if you kill the AI, because if you kill the AI, you just immediately win. Uh, because I didn't feel like waiting for evacuating after killing the AI is intuitive. Maybe it could be, but that was what I decided while working on the map anyway. So it's just how it is for now. Maybe in the future I may change it at some point. So if you want to kill the AI, you have to evacuate all units except one supply of whatever you want to evacuate, and then you will get the evacuated units in the second mission. Or maybe I changed this already. Let me actually take a look. I'm opening a trigger window which doesn't register on my screen capture unfortunately. Uh, but it'll just be a second. Yeah, I think you definitely immediately win after destroying the base, so you can kind of screw yourself over if you don't evacuate anything. This is a little bit gamey, probably. It's not the best implementation. Now that I think about it, I would probably, if I was doing this today, I would probably just do it in a way where you have to evacuate no matter what, and then I would like add a small dialogue or maybe some pop-up that says that you have to still evacuate the units after you deal with the AI. But I think it's because the way it works now is because I was feeling it's more convenient to do it in terms of saving bank. Because using bank data in StarCraft is pretty unwieldy. Typically, there's some like weirdness around whether you can save at a specific moment or not. So it's really good to have like a specific event you can hook onto and save your bank right after that, so that it doesn't like get messy, disorganized, or you don't accidentally lose data while trying to save your banked outcomes to another map. And yeah, that's like pretty much it for this map. Obviously, the Zerglings that you have hidden around here will be a little bit more active because they will be like trying to move to this base and trying to maybe attack you from a couple of different sides. You can expand to this base if you want to, if you need to. But other than that, this is it for this map. Like in terms of gameplay, it's a real basic Zerg AI. Uh, the biggest advancement between this and the original map is that there's an AI at all, right? Because normally neither this nor the next map has any opponents. So let's go to turn 2, Backwater Station. Let me kill this map. And this is the modded version. Let's close this as well. This is the original. The original Backwater Station has you start with a couple of marines, and with a already established base. You have this weird area going to the right over here, where you don't really have anything except a separate base, which is huh. It's somewhat awkward in that you don't really need this base. It's probably so that people like don't do something really stupid and lock them out, like lock themselves out of winning. Uh, but you also get some minerals here, and you get a CC here. So this is a bit bizarre. It's just probably going to get unused by most players. Because as I mentioned a bit before, you don't actually get an enemy AI in this map. Uh, those are all like dialogue locations where you have the firebat saying burn it alive or whatever. You have Raynor saying that creep is alive. Other than that, nothing happens on this map. It's just static enemies, and they will just chase you for a bit and then give up. They don't attack you, they don't defend anything, they just exist. You also don't get any epic scripting on your end. You just have this settlement. If you approach this, you are going to get it, and some units are going to come outside the bunkers and say some stuff to you. And obviously, if you somehow get Raynor killed, you lose. There's no infested terrains on the map, even though there's a infested CC. There's also no queens, so you just get this building slapped on here so that you know that it exists, I think. You get firebats in this mission, but it's a little bit weird because it feels like they are supposed to be introduced here, but you start with a gas anyway, so you can start making them anyway, which is kind of, I'm sure that it's the best way to approach this. And there's no gas here. It's kind of weird, but it doesn't matter. It's like a really minor thing actually. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You just have to navigate through some static Zerg, and once you kill enough static Zerg, you can win. There's no time pressure. You just have to not mine yourself out on single Zerglings. Let's go to the UEDIP version now. You can see that the starting point is a little bit different. You actually start here, and you start with the units you had in the previous map. They spawn around here and they go here. Same with Raynor. He starts in this location and then he drives a little bit to the right. You can't go any more right than this because there's a cliff and you can't climb from this location. You have to go left. What happens here is when you enter these trip locations, you start you like cause some enemy units to come your way. So those Zerglings and Dismuta will like start going towards you if you climb this cliff. And a similar situation happens here. There's some Zerglings that will attack you if you try to climb up. There's some Zerglings on the lower ground as well. There's nothing here. You can't actually start building anything because you don't have SCVs or minerals. You have to go up this base, and the way it works, this base is a little bit more active, let's say. So the entire time that you are going towards it, it's getting attacked by these Zerglings. But those Zerglings are obviously like getting killed by Marines. I mean firebats. So you have firebats in bunkers, and you are kind of shown how they work if you take a look at this base, because they are actively killing Zerglings that are trying to approach this base. This is a scripted sequence. It just happens at a specified time, and it doesn't happen afterwards because then we are getting to an AI that's not doing spawned units, it's just training them, so it will work a little bit differently. And after you approach this location, you again get some dialogue from firebats and the CVs in the bunkers. You get this base and you can start building up. This is where you can expand now, and it's slightly more attractive here because there is an actual AI on the enemy side, but also this is a pretty safe spot. Most of the time you are not going to get attacked here, so you just have this incentive to get this extra base if you want the income. The only difficulty is trying to measure when you can spare the 400 minerals on expanding without getting your ass kicked. Mm, there's no creep dialogue because that was in the previous map. This is just unused now. I should probably, I'm kind of showing my bad practices here. I should probably remove unused locations, but they just, I don't know. When I'm working on the map, it doesn't bother me that there's unused stuff because I know it's unused, and then if I'm confused, it's really easy to browse triggers manually and search whether the location is used anywhere. But in practice, like in principle, it would be good practice to remove those because obviously they're just useless to taking up space. After you start mining, you get your stuff going. You immediately have firebats again, but this time you have to expand for them, I think, because there's no geyser here, right? Yeah, there's no geyser. So there's another reason to expand here. You are kind of forced to do this anyway. You start with some Vespin, I think, about 200, something like that. So it's enough to get some firebats out, I'm pretty sure. Let me actually check exactly the amount so that I don't talk out of my ass. Yeah, it's 200 gas that you start with. And you start with 4 firebats, so it's usually enough to get you by for some amount of time. This Zerg actually attacks you with some infested terrains every now and then. Those infested terrains are nerfed specifically for this map. They deal 50% damage, and because Raynor is a medium-sized unit, they deal even less to Raynor, which is this is like 75% damage to Raynor, so it's actually impossible to lose Raynor to a single infested terrain. As a result, what's the scariest thing in this map is usually the Hydralisks, because Hydralisks in vanilla UEDIP are really scary. They get more HP, more damage, and 1 armor, and Marines obviously are a little less durable, and as a result, it's really easy to lose a lot of Marines to a small number of Hydras, which you're supposed to hopefully learn in this mission if you didn't interact with Hydras in the previous one. And the reason for this is that Marines are really cheap in vanilla. They take a really short time to build, so we can get a huge amount of them very quickly. Their biggest problem is that they are supply inefficient. So the way you can use them is you spam out groups of Marines, they get killed, and you immediately get a new group. You reinforce and you move on. It's really easy to win most of Vanilla Trojan this way, but it's a concept that people really struggle with. People like really hate Vanilla Marines because they individually they do feel weak. They are definitely weaker, even though with upgrades they are like probably better than unmodded Marines once you get Panacea and Steam. Mm, and the AI is obviously spending cash on Hydras, so even though Hydras are more scary, they are also more expensive. And if you're in a situation where you can damage the enemy economy or kill enough units so that they have to spend a lot on rebuilding them, you are usually pretty well off. Mm, this unit, this map is kind of turtly. I think you have to spend like 3 or 5 minutes maybe just building stuff and then trying to get through this area. There are less Zeglings usually because those get killed during the starting sequence. And once you just amass enough units, you can walk into the base and destroy it. There's not enough maybe like stuff to do on the side, because I decided that it would be best if this map, if this expansion was a little bit detached from the main one. This expansion is also the only source of Vespin gas that the Zerg has. So if you take it out, they can't do any more Hydras or infested runs. So this would be like a side objective, but I just felt that the map is kind of too cramped and it gets too annoying if you allow the player to pass through this cliff here, because then the Zerg can pass here as well, and they start like taking really weird routes to get you. And after playing with some people, after like looking at some people who never played StarCraft play this UEDIP version of this map, I just figured it would be the best to increase the distance they would need to walk a little bit, make it a bit more awkward to get out and to get into this bottom base. And even though it was supposed to be that kind of side objective, like push it back, make it simpler, just make it focused on this top right part of the map uh, to improve like the new player experience a little bit. That's not necessarily the best thing always. It could be more interesting to have this map be more open, maybe in this location, for example, then this expansion is more threatened. This is actually how it was originally uh, laid out. I think both of those holes just didn't exist. You just could walk wherever from this middle point of the map. But as I was saying, it got pretty hectic, and for slower players, for players that struggle and didn't yet have time to learn stuff properly, this more streamlined version felt better. And also, the AI has a single queen in this map. I think it only parasites. Maybe at some point it ensnares. I just wanted the queen to hang around the infested command center and like uh, communicate that this unit exists, because it's going to show up in later missions, like same with infested terrains, and it's going to show up more commonly than it did in the unmodded campaign. So I thought it's important to showcase both of these units so that people can prepare themselves for meeting them later on. And the reason they should probably be prepared is that infested terrains especially are significantly different than they are in the unmodded game. They explode on death, which makes killing them more risky. You have to actually kill them in places where they wouldn't hurt your units. But you can also kind of utilize that so that they hurt their allies, right? Because if there's an infested terran among 10 Zerglings, you can blow it up just killing it, and all the Zerglings die as well. So it's kind of two-sided that way. You can use it to your benefit, but you have to be aware of this fact, and you have to be aware of infested terrans coming your way. After you win, you go to the next map. There's a small cutscene where you get Norak 2 with, I think, two Wraiths flying to Raynor and telling him that he's going to prison. Raynor is broken out between the maps anyway, so this doesn't really matter, but it's a cutscene from the original game, except obviously in the original map this was not shown on the map. You just got a dialogue. Here we try to show it via the duck literally flying in. It's not, maybe it doesn't make the most sense, but it's pretty comparable to what happens in the Protoss campaign later on anyway. So it made sense. And then that's it for this map. This AI only uses Zerglings and Hydras other than the infested stuff as well. Mutas show up in the next map. And speaking of the next map, Desperate Alliance, let's take a look at the original version. The original version can only be won by holding out for 30 minutes. This is 30 in-game minutes. This is a concept that eludes some people. It may be pretty confusing because what shows up on the in-game timer can be different than what your remastered timer shows you, for example. It's because the in-game timer always shows time as if it was going on normal speed, or rather, it shows normal minutes. Normal minutes are about 2/3 of what a fastest minute would be. So you just get, if you have 20 minutes on the timer, it means that in real, well, let's use the easier example because I'm afraid I'm going to say something dumb. If you have 30 minutes on the timer, in reality, this means that 20 fastest game minutes are going to have to pass, which is 20 real life minutes if you are playing on fastest. So this is what happens sometimes with the timer, why it's inaccurate if you're measuring time in any other way. So since you have to defend, there's really no reason to come out of your base. As a curiosity, maybe I will show one thing. You have a do that here that I think, oh, it's this one I think. This is technically a do that, but it cannot be selected. It cannot be deleted in any way. Even if you delete it, it still exists. You can't actually place anything like this because normally this do that is not cut off, so it has to be like a some weird artifact left from early StarCraft where you could play this specific place a do that would be cut off, and then I don't know, they removed it for some reason. I don't really know. It's pretty weird. It's annoying while working on this map because if you don't make the map from scratch, I think this just always stays here if I remember. So you just have to live with this specific location always having this do that. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I think it was annoying for one reason or another while I was working. There's a lot of Zerg on this map, and the reason for that is it's not just so that you can prop hunt Zerg while you're bored waiting for the 30 minutes to run out. It's because the pro-placed Zerg are supposed to be part of the difficulty in a way. Not only are pre-placed Zergs going to be rebuilt, this is a pretty funny formation by the way, not very Zerg-like, but also they are going to be used in the final sequence. When there's like 1.5 minutes left, all the Zerg all over the map are going to come to your base and attack you. This is supposed to look scary because like the very culmination of this mission, right? So you have tons of Zerg in different distances from your map, from your base, so that there's like a steady stream of Zerg coming into your base at the very end. Obviously, this doesn't quite work out if you kill them before that, but it's a decent enough idea considering the standard level of StarCraft level design. And it lets the Zerg have enough units to like do whatever attacks they need to do. And this AI actually attacks quite a bit. It's pretty scary in terms of attacking at least. It only uses Zerglings, Hydralisks, and Metalisks, so not that much variety. It doesn't upgrade very well. I think it may not even upgrade anything at all. But the attacks it does actually perform are good enough, they are frequent enough, and if you are playing StarCraft for the first time, this may very well be the first time you lose, because it's just a huge jump from the previous two missions to this. Because suddenly, not only you have an AI, not only does it have like 100 units spread across the map, but it's also attacking you, it's also defending. If you try to go out, it will like bash your head in with 4 Hydralisks, 10 Hydralisks. It's definitely more difficult than you are prepared for in the previous two maps. You even have like these bizarre traps made up of Zerglings and some Hydras, put in very effective spots so that the Zerglings can protect the Hydra and block the ramp so that your Marines can get up. And you don't get that many units, you only get Vultures in this map. You have Firebats, Marines, and Vultures. So obviously this map is actually easy if you're a good StarCraft player, right? But it's positioned in a way that makes it somewhat hard for people who don't really know what they are doing, which is fine. You probably want your maps to be a bit hard for people who don't know what they are doing, but arguably it doesn't serve like its purpose as a introductory mission in a way, mm, because it's definitely not a smooth jump from this map between this map and the previous ones. And you are going to see this once more in the Terran campaign. And the next jump is pretty bizarre too. I think it may be even worse than this one because in this one, at least the map is supposed to like really funnel you into this strategy where you have to build bunkers and you have really good spots for those bunkers. So if you do get them, it's really easy to defend. You just repair bunkers, you maybe put a vulture on the high ground, it can defend. It's really easy. It's really nice. It's smooth sailing if you can just get this core concept of bunkers being good. But the next map where this jump happens is going to be a lot more harsh in terms of what the player is supposed to do. It's going to be a lot more confused in terms of your base designs. And once we get to that point, I think it will be in episode 3 or 4 probably. Uh, I think it's going to be obvious that this isn't the worst difficulty jump in the Terran campaign by far. So yeah, after you wait out for 20 fastest minutes, you get some dropships that spawn here. They just appear and you win. Nothing more than that. The Zerg aren't scripted to do anything except that one final attack. Anything special, I should say. They are scripted to attack and defend, like I mentioned earlier. I just wanted to underline that they don't like do any more um, specifically timed trigger things. Like there's no special muta wave that goes some way around you or something. It just normal attacks. I should probably explain the way you can attack in StarCraft is you can just have the AI handle things, and the way AI handles things is the default AI will always like uh, pick a unit you have as a target. It's probably going to be a building, and then 5 regions from that target is going to try to group. So this is the building, and then let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5 probably. This would be only for Aryans, obviously. But this is also, yeah, this is 4, 5, 4, 5. Yeah, exactly. And once it picks this region, it doesn't necessarily have to be this. It's like picking a random region, random legal region. So it can be any of these 4, but only if it's targeting this building, right? It can also target it from a different angle. So maybe it's 1, 2, uh, wait, let's make it easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, I think would be legal. I'm not sure if those small count. It might be that this is 1, 2, 3, 4. No, those definitely don't count for ground units. This counts for air units, but I think this, for example, is so small that it doesn't even register as a valid region for air grouping because it's not connected by a line to anything else. So I think this would be ignored. So maybe you would have like 1, 2, 3. This is legal for air. 4 and 5 for air potentially. This would be pretty close. This is not very reliable. Something like this. Anyway, I might be explaining this in a way that's slightly confusing because the targeting overall is slightly confusing. I don't think even Neve, who explained this to me back in the day, completely understands it because some stuff happens sometimes that just inexplicable. Like it doesn't make sense in the context of what we were supposed to think about how it works. That way, I don't know, maybe stuff changed and I'm just not up to date on that. Anyway, after it selects the region, it sends some units there, the units that are supposed to attack, and after like minute or two or three, depending on the script, in campaign it's always 3 minutes. If it doesn't have units grouped up because they got stuck or it couldn't produce all of them, they go anyway. But if it had all units present in this region, even before that timer, that deadline came by, it starts going out earlier and then it goes and attacks you. So this is like a non-scripted, well, it's actually scripted because StarCraft AI is scripts, but this is like a standard attack you may see from the AI. But you could also tell the AI to literally send 3 units into a specific place, and then after they reach this place, you could tell it to go to a specific place. So maybe I want to be annoying and I tell the AI to send 3 Mutalisks exactly here, and then send 3 Mutalisks exactly here. This is not something that you really see all that often in campaigns, or you don't really see it all that often in UEDIP, but you actually do see it really, really often in like very old campaigns like Antioch or Flame Knives, where there's no other way for your enemy to do anything except if it's very specifically scripted to go from one place to another. And that would be one-time action. That's like not AI, but that's just a specific event that happens in the map. Just triggers most of the time, right? Although in UEDIP, if I wanted to do that, it doesn't have to be triggers. I can do it via AI script, but I will be basically doing the same thing in a slightly more sophisticated way. So yeah, that's it for the vanilla version of the map, and now let's go to the UEDIP one. And this is going to be the final thing that we are going to be covering today. As you can see, the map is slightly bigger. This whole bottom section is added, and the reason why it's added is because I wanted there to be more expansions without making the center of the map feel too congested. Uh, so you don't necessarily have to fight through workers or minerals in this location, but you can still have those bases if you want to. All 3 of those new bases will be taken by the AI. This one too, I think, at some point. So if you want to take them, you have to be quick, and if you will take too long, they will be taken over by Zerg, and then you have to fight for them. As a result of the map expanding downwards, you also have this new entrance. It's really narrow, so that it's pretty easy to defend. Those 2 entrances that you had there are still in the very same place. This that cannot be removed by anyway is still here. I think this front location got expanded very slightly so that you can build a bunker here or maybe some turrets. Mineral layouts got altered. Mm, all of those locations are changed one way or another. Most roads are now broken up. I want to show that in the places where there are Zerg, the things are in a state of disrepair a little bit. Uh, this array is the same, it's not really used except for the final cutscene. You got a new enemy right here. Uh, this Zerg Leviathan tribe. Fuck, not tribe. Oh god. Leviathan brood is going to be attacking you with Mutalisks and some Scourge and maybe some Hydras later on. This main Zerg player is attacking with Mutas, Hydras and Zerglings as always, but this time it also has one single Ultralisk. This Ultralisk cannot be rebuilt, but it roams the map, it tries to help the Zerg defend, and you can pull it to attack towards your base if you try attacking the Zerg and then escape. This expansion can now be taken by the AI. If it takes them, it obviously starts making more units, it has more cash, it will defend with more because it can afford more. It will also take this base at some point to get some more gas. And if you just kind of sit in your base and let the AI expand, this map is very specifically made so that you can, in theory, win this map without ever exiting your base. This is another thing where I wanted to specifically make it easier for people that are like newcomers to the project, even like newcomers to StarCraft. You aren't necessarily a veteran, you start playing UEDIP. The first three missions are supposed to kind of ease you in so that it's not insanely hard. You don't have to expand, but it's something you can do. And if you do expand, if you are good at it, if you are good at managing your tempo, you can win before the 30 minutes mark. And you do that by destroying one of the Zerg lairs. Now you can notice that there are no lairs on the map. That is because the lair is like built at 1 or 2 minutes in for timing reasons, and I figured it didn't make sense to destroy the hatcheries if the lair is built that early, because almost every time you are going to win, you are going to be destroying the lair. So it just simplified to destroy one Zerg lair. If you actually destroy this hatchery before a lair exists, you are going to win anyway. So that I didn't want to limit this too much. Mm. And in no other bases will any of those players build a lair. They will only get one in their main base. So the TLDR, the real objective is that you have to destroy one Zerg base to win, or like one main town hall to win. And then if you do that, there are some locations here, and some red wraiths from the Sounds of Korhal spawn, they fly in, they shoot some Zerg if there are any, and you win. If you don't decide to go out and attack, you defend for 30 game minutes. The same wraiths fly in from another side, uh, shoot at Zerg because probably there will be Zerg swarming all over your base. As some dropships fly in and you win the same way, except a different way. There are actually a few very scripted attacks in this map where Zerg will go a specific route. One is, I think, like, let's take a look at the locations again. Uh, I think one is that they group Mutalisks in this location, and then they go here. So we have them coming like from the bottom side, which may be slightly unexpected. Uh, this is mainly to catch people off guard, so that the default targeting algorithm doesn't dictate too much how people play. You can still very much learn those attacks, and this is fine. There's some like degree of mastery you can achieve over a mission. There's things that don't change between playthroughs, that you can just come into the mission a couple of times, and if you're struggling, if you notice these patterns, it's going to be easier the next time you play. So there's also I think a Zergling or a Hydralisk attack like that always strikes the same place. Usually the first two attacks also always attack the same place. There's probably that Muta attack I've mentioned going over the mineral line. This is a attack target for sure, so I know this has to be some grouping target. This is probably that location. They probably send some Mutalisks here, and then they send them here. This isn't quite done via triggers. This is a attack that is told to target specific locations, so that after the AI destroys whatever it wanted to, it still moves units as if they were part of an attack. So it searches and destroys new stuff instead of standing still, which would happen if they were sent via a trigger. This AI is a bit more aggressive in terms of how often it attacks, but the main additional difficulty is this yellow player that's supposed to annoy you and harass you with some mutas. But if you are pretty quick, you know how to use vultures or you know how to use marines, I feel that this map is actually maybe easier than the original map because you can very quickly amass a group of like 20 marines, go to this base, destroy it from a good angle, maybe avoid one of those sunkens, maybe get this ultra in a choke so that it doesn't cause too much damage, and then you just win in like 5 minutes by destroying the lair, which is good. That's what I wanted. I wanted that to be explicitly possible, as well as the more defensive playstyle. As more as the like expanding playstyle, basically. I think this is a pretty good map. It lets you do a lot of different stuff. There's way less Zerg per place because I didn't need to rely on that final wave as much because my AI expands, and when it expands, it gets more units, it gets more bases. So it just naturally builds up this huge wave that's normally placed on the map. And if it does get everything it wanted to, that wave is still pretty scary. It also comes from the bottom, so like there's more of a surround. And there's like a little bit less cheesiness that you could maybe get away with in the original map, where you could float buildings to prolong your life for a pretty long time, because the enemy didn't have that many scourge. Here, yellow gets scourge, so if you do try floating away, his scourge will hopefully be able to burst your base down as it's floating away. What more to say? I think that's it pretty much for this episode and for this map. It's a fairly simple map if you really come down to it. It took some scripting. The AI isn't like the simplest in the world. You can see that there are some locations where it will try to like hide a hydra behind this tree. Hide a hydra behind this tree. I really like hiding hydras behind trees. The alternative win condition is nice. Those buildings that you can see all around the map uh, at some point turn hostile to the enemy, to the Zerg, and the Zerg could just destroy them. The reason they exist is some visual storytelling, that this used to be a Terran uh, city, right? This used to be a Terran planet. Now it's getting overwhelmed, and you just have some buildings that are going to be destroyed before the player can see them in some instances, but in some other instances the player may stumble upon them, see them, and then they may notice that they are destroyed. This required some tiny amount of extra scripting so that the neutral factory doesn't spawn a Goliath when it dies, but it wasn't a big problem. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions about the maps that I've talked about, let me know. Comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and bye. See you next time.